What up, Broomies? Tonight on Neighbors, we've got one of the most unique life paths we ever had on the show. Our guest, Wade Simmons, a filmmaker, nearly a decade in film, 16 years in the funeral service industry, and because it wasn't enough, he's also spent the last 2 years training for pro wrestling. So we're talking about the realities of the funeral business, what people get wrong, what it teaches you about life. Then we're jumping into filmmaking, and finally we're stepping into the ring, training, mindset, persona, and what it takes to actually do this. Roomies, welcome, Wade Simmons.
What's good with you?
What's going on, bro? What's going
Oh
on?
man, oh man,
Yo,
nothing. Just kind of had a bit of a long day, but it's been a pretty good day. Ran into a few of my former high school classmates today, so that's always pretty nice.
nah, I feel you on that. It's always good to run into like old friends and stuff that you haven't seen in a minute and just like reconnect.
Yeah, look, as long as everybody's alive and well and healthy, that's good enough for me.
Nah, I feel you on that. I was just running around today. I had to work, and yeah, shit was just like crazy around there. I had to like run to a couple of different spots to like pick things up because it was like snowing out here, and I didn't have the stuff I needed. So it was a
Yeah,
little heavy, but it was good though. You feel me? It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. You feel me?
yeah, that's
So
good.
all right, so let's jump into this. You live three movie plots at once: funerals, filmmaking, and wrestling. What's your origin story on that? So how did you get into all
Well,
that?
so actually, it started in childhood. I grew up on the west side of Chicago and in the south suburbs, kind of. And I
Yeah.
always knew that I wanted to be a filmmaker. I used to like looking at Spike Lee movies, like George Lucas and Spike Lee. Those are two of my top favorite filmmakers, and so I kind of drew
What?
inspiration from them. Yeah, Walt Disney as well. And I kind of drew inspiration from like watching them, but also I was curious about working in the funeral business. So I remember as a child saying, like, I'm gonna be a filmmaker and I'm gonna be a funeral director. So when I went to high school, I did like art club, I wrestled, and then
Yeah.
I started working in the funeral business like around my senior year of high school. My teacher, Miss Anderson, she called
Yeah.
one of the local funeral home owners and he said, "Hey, tell them to, show up." And so I ended up working with them. And so I knew right then and there that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up hanging in that business for quite a while. And so when
Hold
I
on, hold on,
finally
hold on. What made you want to go into like mortician tree? Is that am I pronouncing that right? Being a
well,
mortician.
you can say that, yeah, mortician, funeral director, undertaker,
What
all those type of.
what made you like just want to be an undertaker?
Well, you know what? I always, I don't share this with everybody, but I've been sharing it a little bit more lately. But I had like this weird, like, I don't want to say out of body experience, but I almost drowned when I was a kid, a child, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember saying like I saw angels or something fighting in the water and all that stuff. And so from that, like I was like kind of always aware that like God is real, and and it kind of, I guess
Yeah.
kind of made me a little curious. And so I think after that experience, like I just was like, you know what? I think I want to be a funeral director because I also went to like a lot of funerals and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I put it like this: like I know that it's a business that you really have to be passionate about because I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who go to school for it and they end up walking away from it. Like I got a lot of my classmates who passed their tests, when I was
Yeah.
struggling to pass it, and they went into the field and did it and walked away from it. But I was already doing it before I went to school for it. So it you know, didn't really bother me because like being
That's
around that kind of just makes you enjoy life.
I feel you on that, but you gotta have like I don't just want to say a strong stomach, but you gotta have like kind of like a strong will to like be around death all day. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And
I don't
also
take it
to like,
home with me.
but on the flip side of that, you're also there to help families. Help their loved one move on to the next life. I guess if you want to say it like that.
I guess you can say that. But my thing is just, to me, it really makes you think about like for me, it makes me think about my own life, my own mortality. I think that like, working in that business teach you like not to take life for granted. It teaches you
Yeah.
to like use every day, like, optimize every day. Cause like I tell people, like, if you got things in your life that you want to do, you just got to do them. I mean, sometimes things don't happen overnight, but I just say spend every day. For me, if you're a believer like me, I just say,
Mm.
put God first, and then, just whatever you find your hands to do that you're trying to do, just go for it. Cause tomorrow's not promised to anybody on this side. So, you gotta make the most of it.
Nah, I feel you on that. Like that's crazy because I've been hearing that a lot lately, just to like go for it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people
Yeah.
nowadays, they I don't want to say they slack, but because of the fact that they're gonna face obstacles and certain the ups and downs of like trying to pursue something, they kind of like I don't want to say chicken out, but they kind of like will stray away from it because of the fact they don't want to go through that process. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
but obstacles have been a part. Look, everybody has obstacles. I've
yeah,
faced many. I mean, like I said, when I went to school to be a funeral director, the school was very tough. Some people might have breezed through it. I didn't. It was rough because I mean I was already in the field before going to school, but when I went to school, it's like, oh man, like it was very tough. But if it's something you want to do, you just you stick with it and learn what you need to learn, because nothing in life is gonna come easy. You have
that's
to be
why.
willing to endure sometimes. Like it's nothing that's gonna come easy.
Well, anything that's worth anything is not gonna come easy. You know what I mean? Without a little bit of work and
Absolutely,
without grease in there. You know what I mean? But what's like the wildest
absolutely.
assumption people have when you tell them that you're a funeral director?
I remember the wildest thought I got was, I remember when I wrestled in high school, there was a young man on the wrestling team, and I'll never forget. We were talking about something, and he was like, "So you want to play with dead people?" And I'm like, I didn't find that funny that he said it, but I think that
Oh
was
no,
like the wildest. That was like one of the wildest things
oh,
anybody ever said to me. Like one of the guys
nah,
on the wrestling team
no,
said
that's
that. I'm like,
crazy.
but but no, it's not that. I mean, it's just something that you want to do. And like, to me, I think that if you're really passionate about it, then you always know that you want to respect the living as well as the dead. So, you want to be a person with integrity and honesty, and you want to do the best job that you can.
Nah, I feel you on that. I feel you 100% because it's like certain things, especially like something like being a funeral director or a mortician, is that's not just like something you just like breeze into. That's like a calling. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not something that's like being like a marine biologist. I'm just saying, like how it's like so specific and stuff. What I'm saying is like you really got to have that calling and that passion for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? I tried to get out of the business a couple of times. I was thinking about it, and I was just like, you know what? But every time I would try to get out, something would happen to remind me why I got into it. So it happens. It happens. You just stick with it.
Nah, I feel you. And what like kept you there? Like what was like the message that you was getting that that kept you like
Well,
being a funeral director?
like somebody I know would lose a relative, and they would just reach out to me and ask me like, could I help and assist them with, you know, whether it was helping them pick a funeral home, or because one thing about me, like, even though I worked in the business and everything, like I know a lot of people in the business, but I always say families go where they want to go. And there's a lot of different funeral home owners out there. I love them all. Um, I think that a lot of people in that business are wonderful people, at least the ones that I know. And I put it like this, like, to me, everybody wants to do the best job that they can, because to me, it's like, being in that business. First of all, you got
Yeah,
to be able to have tough skin, because you're servicing people at one of the most difficult times of their life.
that's
So
fine.
you want everything to be right. That's not like, it's, no offense, but it's not like, something that you can do over.
Yeah,
So you want to make sure that everything is right, from the way that the loved one looks, to the way that your cars are when they pull up, to the way that your staff is, to the way your establishment looks. So you want everything to be as perfect as it can be.
yeah, of course, because it's like that's like the final memory that those people have of their relative and that family has of their relative. You know what I mean? So they want to have it.
Yeah,
I don't want to say iconic, but they want to be able to, immortalize it. In their memory.
yeah.
And
I
besides like
kid
the besides like the good and the bad, the good stuff that they remember about them, but they want to
you. Yeah.
immortalize the memory of like this is how the person was carried on. I guess.
Yeah. Now I remember one particular day at the funeral home, and this was just kind of strange, but I think it was like one day I remember that we did like three services, and all three of the services brought like a live band. It was different. It was like, it wasn't like, the old, kind of, I'm not being funny, but kind of like the more slow paced music, if you
Yeah.
want to call it that. But it was like they brought like a live band and they were playing like blues and jazz, and it was
No,
actually
that's
nice. It
dope
was
though.
different. Yeah, it was
That's
something
dope.
different. And to me, I like that more families are like, they're personalizing their loved one service, because, back in the day, funerals were more like, just I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
funny, but like it's supposed to be a celebration of life. So I like
Yeah.
that people now are incorporating more of their loved one in it, because when you're doing somebody's funeral service, it's about the deceased. So you want
Yeah.
to honor them in the way that they live their life. So to me, I think that it's kind of cool that families are doing more like personalized services. Like, if they love one, like the jazz, they play jazz music.
Why
If they
not?
were
Like,
steppers, then they have like a stepping event or something like that. Like you want to honor people the way that they live their life.
and what's besides like the live band? Was there any other like crazy like tradition? Because I'm pretty sure like you deal with all peoples from all different walks of
Oh
life.
yeah. Well, we
Was
had
there
we
like
had one.
was there like any like traditions that one family brought that you was like, oh snap, I didn't know people did that, or like they did something that you were like, oh, this is pretty dope.
Well, I think I think all of them have their own like really unique tradition. I remember it was just one family from Africa, and they had like a musical, and they was dancing and celebrating, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like it was really
Oh, that's
uplifting.
dope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like and then I remember like one family, they did like the Chicago Bulls like theme, the music, and they
Oh
came and
shit,
walked out with their Bulls jersey. Yeah, that was cool. Like
that was
I done
that's
seen a
dope.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it's dope that now people are like turning funerals into more of a celebration of life than in the past where everything was like more on a depressing motion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you've been in the business for a while, so like what makes a good funeral director or not. So like, what kind of traits does like a great funeral director need? You know what I mean?
I would say great listening skills,
Okay.
because to me, I think it's better. It is a business, but I think it's better to be. I consider myself more of an educator rather than a salesman, because to me, you want to let the family know what their options are. And nowadays, things are a little bit different, because now whatever people don't know, they can kind of look it up for themselves.
Yeah.
But you want to be honest with the family, and you want to let them know what their options are, and you want to help them to celebrate, because a funeral director is kind of like an event planner. You help the family pick a location, you help the
Yeah.
family pick a date, you help the family kind of put everything in place they need to put, from whether or not they want to have a minister or a funeral celebrant, or just a regular service, and then some people may not want a traditional funeral service. They might just want like a visitation, and just do like a visitation and turn that into like a memorial tribute type of service. So every family is not the same, every circumstance is not the same. So you definitely need very good listening skills, and you don't want to push anything on a person that they don't want. You want them to kind of tell you what they want, and then you kind of help them put things in perspective and help them organize it. So in anything, it's more
I
like
feel you.
being an event planner.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. So you're just basically guiding them through the process, and like whatever they need, you're there to listen and kind of like orchestrate everything for them.
Yeah.
And that's
But
that's what
also
Robert.
you need patience and empathy.
Oh
And
yeah,
the
yeah,
reason why I say you need patience, because you got to think about it. Like, not every situation is easy, because you got families who may not get along. Like, say for instance, you may have a father who, passes away, and he
yeah,
has 5 or 6 children, and two of the children don't get along. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I
Or
know.
he got an or he got it or he got an insurance policy that he only left to certain people. So you definitely need patience and empathy with that, because a lot of times it get ugly, and You know,
Uh,
you can't really you can't really fault anybody because you know at the end of the day, whether the person paid the bill or not, if that's their parent, you can't take that away from them. You know, and
definitely
so
can't.
sometimes it gets ugly because say for instance one of the children paid the bill, but the other child's like, well, that's my parent, and I don't like this and I don't like that. So now, so you know, it's like that part is out of your jurisdiction because whoever the legal next of kin in charge is, and that is not in your hands. That's between the family and the state. You know, you
Yeah,
just supposed to
definitely.
do your job. Yeah. So trying to like be the referee and all that stuff, like the you know, you just try to be the peacemaker. And I do understand because people be hurt sometimes, you know, like I remember there was this one time with this guy, his mother passed away, and I think he never met his mom. He didn't even know his mom. And he's like, you know, she put all this in my hand and I didn't even know this lady, you know?
Yeah,
That was like, wow, you know.
that's crazy, bro.
If I remember correctly, yeah. So you see a lot of stuff.
That's wild. Like I could just imagine like all the stories that like all the things you've seen and like all the like not only the good but you've seen like the bad of it. I would say like and the ugly
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
because I in my own personal life, I've seen wild shit. Excuse my language. Wild shit go down at a funeral, especially like my
Oh,
family's funeral when like
oh
cousins
yeah.
are weeping and all this other. And I'm like, bro, it's not even we're not even here for all that. So I don't even know why it's coming up. You know what I
Man,
mean?
I'm trying to tell you, we done had to shut quite a few services down. I mean, you see a lot of stuff, man. It's
Yeah,
kind of sad, you know. It's very sad, and that's not the time and place for that. But you know, when people are hurting and things of that nature, you
yeah. You
can't
can't
really,
you can't really intervene in that. Yeah,
yeah, because we don't know, you know, we don't know the whole situation or the, you know, and sometimes we know that even with parents, right? Sometimes some parents may have children that they might treat better than others, and it could be resentment, it could be a lot of things. So we don't
we don't
really
know.
know that stuff. So it's
Yeah,
best to stay out of it. You know what I'm saying?
because because from your perspective, you're just there providing a service for them, and you're just trying to do it, do your best for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you see a lot of stuff happen. Like you find out sometimes people got a whole nother family and all that stuff and kids, the people that look,
That never
stuff
happened to
happens.
you, like you doing a funeral home and like the guy or the woman's like a whole other family just walks in and they're like, "Yeah, what's up? We're here."
Yeah, well now what's going on now that we've seen, we had like one side of a family, they weren't getting along. So now what some people have did, one family would print one set of obituaries, the other family had their own set of obituaries. And then now the person in charge is like, well, pass these out. Then the other child is like, no, no, pass these out. And so now you're like, you know what? You know what?
Just do ya.
We y'all gonna have to come together and figure this out because we can't. Because if we get in the middle of it, we gotta remember these individuals are still family. So you
Yeah,
know, you know what I'm saying. So you don't want to get in the middle with that, but it does happen.
I feel you. I feel you, man. And since you've been working around death for so many years, what has it taught you about living?
Man, it taught me that you got to live every day, enjoy every moment, and anytime you think about people, call on them and check on them because, you know, things change every day. Like, I mean, you
True.
know, being at the funeral home, you would see situations where like people would just be like, man, we was just laughing and talking, and then this happens. So
Mm.
I'll never forget. I'll tell you this story that really shook me up. There was a mother. I'll never forget this. And she came into one of the funeral homes that I was at, and her daughter was with some young man. And I think something happened at a gas station or whatever.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was I don't know all the details of the story, but I know that the police got involved and the police was chasing them.
Oh no.
And they end up getting into an accident.
Oh
And like that was really messed up, you know. It was
no.
really messed up. And it's like, and I remember like the mother saying like, for some reason, like that night, her dog just kept barking or whatever. Then when she got that call, she was just like, and so that really shook me up, man. And then I remember another case where this young lady had just got a basketball scholarship. and
Nice.
this was some years ago.
Yeah.
And she ended up getting into a car wreck and passing away. And like I didn't know this girl, never met her. But when I went to the service to set up the flowers and everything, like when the mother came and walked in there, I felt that grief. Like I didn't know this family, but like that really like hit me. Like it hit me like nothing ever hit me before, you know.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that really just make you think about life.
Nah, I feel you, and not to take anything for granted, and just keep it pushing and do your thing, bro. I
Yeah.
feel you. I feel you. So, what point? So, at what point did you kind of like transition from, the funeral business to like filmmaking,
So
or like,
this happened.
or were like you
Yeah.
doing it both at the same time?
Well, a little bit of both, but what ended up happening was when I got out of mortuary school, before I can sit for the national board exam, I had to take this test, which was like an exit exam, because like even like in law school, right? Before you can
Yeah.
take the bar, they have like another test you got to take before you can even qualify. So basically, some mortuary colleges have an exit exam. So even if you get through the program, you still got to pass the exit exam before you can go take the real exam. And so it was taking me quite a while to pass that exam. And I'm like, you know what? If I don't pass this test, I'm gonna have to do something. So like I went to the school to like look into being like a veterinarian, and I went in there, I saw all the sick dogs and sick animals, and I'm like, I don't think this is for me. And then I went to
he was
like
like, nah. He was like,
so
nah,
then I
this
flew
ain't for
to
me, bro.
I flew out to Vegas to work with my uncle, because my uncle, he's a plumber, and that's kind of more so the skill set that my family had. My
Yeah.
grandfather was a master plumber and taught my uncles, and so I kind of went to consider learning that, and I went out there, and I'm like, you know what, this not me. So I'm like, I prayed. I like, you know what, God, if I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna do something I like. So I chose film school. So right when I went to film school, this is the funny part. I was still going out taking my exit exam, and I passed
Yeah.
the funeral director test right when I went to film school. So it didn't work out until I went to. It was crazy how it happened. So then
Yeah.
I get in film school. As soon as I get in film school, I start making short films right away. I think I had produced probably like 30 short films, almost like 20. It was like something like that, but I produced quite a bit. Now, I'm not saying that they were perfect. I'm not saying they were good, but like I went in the film school, I had equipment, I had classmates to help me out. So I took advantage of being there, because
Yeah.
like to me, like they was trying to slow me down at one point, but I'm like, nah, look, man, tomorrow don't wait on nobody. While I'm up in here, I'm gonna take advantage of being here. So I just started doing my short films and stuff right away. So right after I graduated film school,
Yeah.
I had a dream that I passed the science part of the funeral director test. So I had the dream. I went out there, took the science part of the test. I passed it. But none of this happened until after I had started playing around with being a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So then I just started, doing films, and I was working in the funeral home. I was doing both. So I did a wedding, a birthday party, like, some typical things filmmakers do, but whatever I can find my hands to do, I just started doing both. And so what ended up happening after that, once I graduated film school and all that, I also wanted to make this documentary about pro wrestling, because I know
Okay.
that I was starting to see that like pro wrestling was kind of, it was
Pick one up.
bigger in Chicago than I thought. I didn't know that at the time. So I ended up reaching out to Steve Boz, and me and him was talking, and he knew that I wrestled in high school because we talked about it. And so he invited me to CSW, the school. So when I went out there, I'm like, when can I make the documentary and stuff? Like he introduced me to some of the wrestlers like Axel Rico,
Yeah.
Sky Blue. He introduced us to quite a few of the wrestlers and everything. And so once he did that, he was like, well, when you gonna start training? And I'm like, you know what? I start next week. so instead of me doing the documentary, I ended up training for pro wrestling for like 2 years. Now, because I was in the funeral business at the time and working, I couldn't always get to every practice, because again, you don't,
Working. Yeah.
you're in the funeral business. Yeah, I'm a working man. So, but I had did wrestling more as a hobby. So, I trained and had a little fun with it and worked a few shows, and got a chance to meet, different people. Like I met Hornswoggle. We got a chance to see Carlito at one of our shows, Scotty Too Hottie. So I got a chance to,
Hey, Scotty Roddy.
meet some of the best. And it's like, wow, like that part of my life, I never saw that coming. But I'm like, man, I fell in love with it. So that's how I ended up doing film and pro wrestling. So like the pro wrestling part was not something that I saw coming. Like it just, I low key always wanted to get back into wrestling, but
Yeah.
I didn't really take it. And then like not knowing that like now I love the indie scene more than mainstream wrestling because to me, I've had experience working on the indie scene and seeing what the people go through and seeing how much talent it is. Like, like WWE, AEW, TNA, all wonderful promotions, but there are more promotions than just those. Like it's
No,
a lot of talent like out here, man. I'm telling you.
no, there is because I have a couple of my boys that are like semi-pro wrestlers, and they work for like a couple of indie companies out here in New York.
Oh yeah, it's a young man by the name of Isaiah Wolf out in New York as well. He's doing pretty big things. You should check him out if you don't know him.
That sounds familiar. I might know
Yeah.
him. I might know him through a connection because my dude, Ace Bradley, he's deep into like the semi-pro scene out here, and he was. I believe me and him were having a conversation about Isaiah Wolf, and he was telling
Okay.
me
Yeah.
he was telling me I had to meet him and I had to like go like check out like the shows and all that shit too.
Yeah, man. Look, the show. I love the shows. Like I got a chance. I really mostly worked security at the shows, but it was fun because like when you be at the shows, for once, like people ain't fighting about politics and none of that stuff. Everybody just under one roof, having a good time, enjoying the show. And like to me, I just kind of like fell in love with that environment, and just,
Yeah.
walking around talking to the fans and, helping break down the ring and stuff, you know. Um, I mean, I got to apologize to some of the other wrestlers because I always got to the shows pretty late, but that's because I was getting out work. Like it wasn't like,
Bro,
but
you're
yeah,
working.
man.
You got to do your thing, bro.
Look, it's like wrestling is a hobby for me. It's not my livelihood. So, you have to take care of your responsibilities as well. But don't get me wrong, there are some pro wrestlers who get paid a pretty nice,
Pretty.
mainstream, some of the mainstream wrestlers probably, but now if I got paid like that, maybe that's a different story. I would have been there extra early.
Oh yeah, shit. What was like the hardest part about training? Because you was making the documentary first, and then you went into training. So like, what was the hardest part about that? Did you like film like your progress in like your wrestling training and all that since you were
Well,
already
no, because when I started training, the documentary just went on pause because like we were focusing on training, and then I was working on some other short films and doing some other stuff, and so I was living in the moment at the time. But I do have like a lot of pictures that we took a
okay?
lot, and I didn't realize it, but I was still putting together the documentary without really. And then I got a couple of videos on my phone and stuff. I gotta go back and pull some of that stuff up. But we finally shot some of the documentary, so we got most of it shot. But
Okay.
we might add more B-roll into it. But yeah, man, and I'm in talks with a wrestler right now about possibly collaborating with a few wrestlers. Because like I said, I don't know what my journey will be in the pro wrestling business. I think I would like to do something more behind the scenes. I had a nice time training for it and everything, and kind of learning the ropes and everything. But I'm a filmmaker. I like production, so a lot of people don't realize wrestling has a production side as well. So not saying that I won't get in the ring and do stuff sometimes, but I think I'm okay with like doing some of the other stuff as well. I want to get in
Okay.
the ring sometimes. I want
So,
to get in the
so
ring sometimes though. Yeah.
I feel you since you did some training and whatnot. What was like your wrestling persona and like name and stuff? What was like your finishing move?
I called it the death row. Well, at first, when I first started, we were thinking about having me do like a funeral director gimmick, but I kind of dummied down on that because I'm like, well, the Undertaker and Paul Bearer, they did a phenomenal job, and
Yeah.
I think for me, it's only one Undertaker in wrestling, and he did a phenomenal job as well as Paul Bearer. So I don't know if I really wanted to touch that gimmick, but I
Yeah.
do have a gimmick that we're in talks about me doing, so I can't put it out just yet. But it's
All
coming
right.
soon, God willing. But we'll see. But like I said, I'm supposed to be collaborating with another fellow wrestler here in Chicago, and then another wrestler is talking about putting together a faction, which me, myself, and some of the other colleagues will be in. So we'll see. Cause like I said, I got a lot of stuff kind of going on. But one thing about
You got
me,
a lot of things
if
bubbling, bro. You
look,
cooking
if
right
the
now.
opportunity is
You
there, I'll show
cooking.
up. Look, I tell people like this. I'm one of them people that look. If you tell me to show up, long as it's good, I'll be there.
I feel
If
it.
not, I keep it moving. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. Like you know when you see a good opportunity, you jump on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cause look, time waits on nobody. So I've been kind of like tied up because I've been doing some work with Chicago PD, the television show as well. I did Chicago Med. I did like so far, I think what 4 episodes of PD, and then I
That's
did
fire.
Med. So I've been kind of busy, man. Just hope, and I think they sent me something for like episode 16 as well. So I may be doing that one too if they pick me, but I'm excited because this coming Wednesday, I think that's one of the first episodes that I did. I was background, but my cousin is
Yeah.
actually one of the guest stars in it. So I get a
Oh, that's
win either
dope.
way because
That's
hey,
dope.
look, I was there. I got a chance to get my eat on set and connect with other
Yo,
people. So it's still
crap
a
keep
win for
hitting.
me. It's still a
Crap
win for
keep be
me
hitting,
anyway.
bro.
I'm excited to see my cousin, and I don't know. It's gonna be nice, but I'm excited though because, like I said, I got a chance to do multiple scenes. I did episode 10, 11, and 12. 13, I was on Med, and this was cool because I would have been on Chicago PD for episode
Yeah.
13, but they text me to do Med, and then it was like I tried to text Med like, well, you know what, I can't be here because they said no, wait, we know that you already booked. We're gonna
Yeah.
keep you on Med. I'm like, cause I don't get like I don't get me wrong, like I love Chicago PD because
Yeah.
whenever like you get a chance to work on the set there, like the cast, all of the other extras and the actors and everybody from the camera crew to everybody's on set is just really nice. And I mean every time I go, like I always have a good time.
Not yo,
And
being on set is fire. Like back
yeah.
like a few years ago, my one of my best friends, he used to be a PA. So on my days off, whenever they needed an extra hand, he would call me to work for them. I
Okay.
remember I was working on one of my most favorite times was when I was working on Black Klansman with Spike Lee.
Oh, nice.
Fire. Like and he they blew up I was working on the day I was working, it was the scene where Denzel Washington's son was running out of the crib and the car blows up.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I was working on that day and so dope. It was so dope. And Spike Lee, he's a very small dude, but he's like super big in stature. Like I was standing next to him, not saying anything. I was just like, yes, Mr. Lee.
It's funny. It's funny because like it was one time I can't say what it is just yet because the episode hasn't came out yet, but
Yeah,
it should be coming out. Like so this the thing. So I did 3 episodes in a row.
yeah,
So I'm excited about that. But it was one episode where they had us like me and my friend, we were tired, right? Because we had to be there like and this was kind of late because you already know you've been on sets before. Sometimes you got to
yes.
be there at 4 or 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
and sometimes you may not get off to 4 or 5 the next morning.
Morning. Yeah, I believe you.
but
I know exactly
but
how that goes.
but it was one particular day, like me and my friend, we was tired, right? So we was kind of heading out to the side, and then the PAs came over there like, no, you two come here. So they had us do it. We had got a chance to work a scene with Arian Mondi from
Yeah.
Chicago PD. That
Oh,
was
that's
pretty
dope.
cool. Like yeah, that was pretty cool. Like
That's dope.
I had a lot of fun. But you know what? I gotta say this though. The actor Leroyce from
Yeah.
Chicago PD, man, he's a very cool guy. Like I like his humility. Like, he's very nice. He comes up and he greets a lot of people and actually talks to people and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty nice, like, to kind of just get to know people because everybody is somebody. That's the way I look at it. But it's always a lot of fun, like working with everybody, you know. So if y'all see me running from the police, I promise I was just acting, okay?
Boy, chill. But not like that because like even actors and celebrities, whatever you want to see them as, they're normal people too. You feel me?
Oh
They
yeah,
just it's
I've
just like
never.
you and me. They just like they're. It's just that their job is to entertain.
Well,
You
I
know?
look at it like this: everybody is somebody to me. That is one of my favorite sayings because a lot of times when you're on set, a lot of the people that are extras, a lot of times if you really pay attention, some of these individuals are doing big things as well. You know, and I always tell people like, you know, life ain't all about people's status. I know society makes it about that, but you never know who people gonna become later. So
No.
but you should treat people right anyway. Like that's just
Yeah.
common courtesy, common sense, you know.
Not, not even because like some of the most like I don't want to say powerful, but some of the most influential people are people that aren't in the spotlight. You know what I mean? It just be that
Yeah.
dude that everybody knows, and they they fuck with him because of the fact that he's a solid guy. You know what I mean? And everybody's
You know
like,
what?
yo,
It's funny you say that. And I learned that to be so true because from my training with professional wrestling, it's so many people who I have met who have ties to WWE, TNA, AEW, and some of these people are people that you probably never seen before. People
never,
that don't really probably care to be known, but it's not about that. It's like, you know, people have to understand that, you know, there are some people out here that are like, you know, really. I ain't gonna say everybody because you got some that ain't so nice, but but we'll be honest about that. But for the most part, you know, there are some people that they just do believe in promoting other people and pushing other people forward, and maybe that's not their interest, but like you said, some of the biggest people sometimes are the people that you never really see, you know, because not everybody wants to be an on camera person else. And like even with me, right? Like with acting, I don't consider myself an actor. I never really cared for acting. I'm gonna be honest. Only reason why I started acting was because I did a short film, which was like my very first pilot episode to my web series. And
okay,
this was right when I was in film school. The lead actor didn't show up. So they was like, well, you know, Wade, the character is you. Why don't you do the part? And I think like I did have to pay everybody for being here, and I got to pay everybody. So you know what? I may not get an Oscar for it, but it had to do. You know
hell
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
boy,
So,
yo, you're already coming
so
out of pocket, so you gotta put on the show if the main actor's not there,
yeah,
especially if the
yeah. So
character.
yeah, so I ended up, you know, doing a part, and like I said, I just took a page out of Martin Lawrence book and Will Smith book. Like, look, you know, nothing wrong with nothing wrong with it, and because basically like growing up, right, like one of my favorite shows was Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Um, you know, Mark Curry is a phenomenal actor, like and
Phenomenal.
comedian, and I remember
Nobody
as a child, like that was one
nobody
of my
ever brings up
favorite
Hanging
shows.
with Mr. Cooper anymore. Nobody
No,
ever
that
brings up Hanging with Mr.
No,
Cooper.
but seriously, that was that was literally one of my favorite shows when I was a child.
Fact,
Like, you know, I remember
fact.
Raven Simone was on there, like, and I just remember that show. And then that show was kind of on around the time with Full House, and I was also a fan of
Yeah,
Full House and all of those shows. So like as a child, like those shows really gave me inspiration and stuff like that because like I used to like watching those shows, and it's like kind of nice how like, you know, they told really good stories, you know, and I thought the actors were pretty cool. I thought Jodie Sweetin did a pretty good job. You know, how rude, right?
yeah,
but but like those like shows like that, and then like I said, I was a very big fan of Martin, The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. These was all shows that we grew up with, and Sanford
yeah.
and Son, they were doing
We
reruns
grew
by
up.
the time I was born.
We grew up in the
But
sitcom era. You feel me? Like we had all the best shows. We had, what, Family Matters, Full House,
oh
Fresh
yeah,
Prince, Blossom, all
I
and
remember
all of these. Yeah,
Everybody
everybody.
Hates Chris was one of my
Chris,
favorite too.
yo,
You know
everybody
what?
is fire.
I love the episode. I like Mr. Omar was one of my favorite characters on there. You remember the one scene where the person was choking in the restaurant? He was like, "There's nothing we can do," you know, because you know Mr. Omar was the mortician too.
Yeah. Um. All right. So like, what's like one skill you could bring into wrestling from like from the funeral bit? Oh, matter of fact, hold on, because there was something else I wanted to ask. Damn it. It had to do with wrestling too. Well, I'll come back to that. But what's like one skill from like each of like your professions that you could like bring into like wrestling if you could like build a persona
Well,
around?
well, all of it is storytelling.
Yeah.
I think that like when you think about wrestling, right? The matches, the feuds, the beefs and all that, those are stories being told in the ring. When you're doing a funeral, you're telling somebody's story. When you're filmmaking, you're telling a story. But as far as the persona wise, I would say that one thing about it is that you're bringing people together, you know. And I think that even in wrestling, whether you're a face or a heel, you're bringing people together to love you or hate you, you know. And the thing about it is that's the goal of the wrestler is to, to get the crowd going, to get people involved. And so I think that's anything like when you're dealing with storytelling, you're dealing with funerals and things of that nature, you're just getting people involved.
Yeah.
It's kind of it seems to be different, but to me it's all really the same thing because
Yep.
you're doing something for the people, you know. And I know sometimes some people don't think of it that way, but you never know because some people look at it like, what do entertainers really bring? But no, like you never know how many entertainers really inspired somebody, or somebody could have been having a rough day and just
Yeah.
seeing something just change their day. Like, I mean, it may not mean something to a lot of people, but you'll be surprised how just somebody's storyline or somebody or just seeing somebody just uplifted somebody, you know.
Right. And you know what is crazy? This is what through our conversation, I've been connecting these dots, right? And the funeral director, the training for pro wrestling, and just being in that field. You know what I mean? And then filmmaking. All of those things have this gravitation where you're helping people, or if not, you're interacting with a large amount of people. Like you're building a community, and I see that a lot. Like I see that with like the things that you're doing, that you're building communities and you're building these connections. Is like, so is so would you say like everything that you're doing is more of the fact that you like being around people and like bringing joy? Not, I don't want to, the funeral director, I don't want to say really joy, but like helping.
Yeah, I definitely think it's that because and it's amazing that you say that because I remember like because I'm not at that funeral home full time anymore like I used to be,
Yeah.
but now I just pretty much whenever somebody loved one passes away, I'll go to pick their loved one up and then to take their loved one into the care of the funeral home. But one of the things that I did miss about being kind of in the place all the time was that I was around people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I would just sit there and just observe people because I like people. I think that people all are walking stories, are walking books. And so I think it's nice to people come together because even when a person is in these wrestling arenas and they got thousands of people in there, but each one of those individuals is somebody with their own story, and I think that that's really a powerful thing. Like I know some people don't think about it because sometimes some people look at it like, well, it's like when we walk past people, sometimes not all people think like this, but sometimes some people are not really, everybody's kind of like in
Yeah.
their own little world. But me, I pay attention to people. Like when I look at people, I'm like, I wonder what their story is. I wonder what their life is like. Not to be in nobody's business, but it's just, you wonder, what things have they been through and things of that nature because, people are important. And I think that like when you meet people, you learn so much about people. And that's why a lot of us, well, some of us have our friends and families because these are people that we connect with. But I think that community goes beyond people that we know because if we just shut ourselves out, we can be potentially missing out on meeting more
Um,
wonderful people, you know?
yeah, and and probably coming across an opportunity that if you would have just stayed in a closed network, you probably would have never been introduced to.
Yeah. So meeting people has always kind of been something that I really enjoy. And like I said, even when I be on the film sets and stuff, when I meet people and talk to people, like, not everybody is as friendly, but I just try to tell people like, sometimes because a lot of time, people look for like the big moments to come in a really
Yeah.
big way, but sometimes big opportunities sometimes don't come in big ways. Sometimes they come in small ways. But a lot of people don't realize that. But that's why I say I think that it's always good to be kind to people, and not because you want anything, but it's just a common courtesy to be kind to people. And again,
Yeah.
you never know who you're talking to. It could be somebody that can really make a big difference for you, and
And
not want anything in return. It's just it's you'll be surprised.
it's true because
I understand. Yeah.
no, because I've had those experiences where I've had a conversation with somebody I didn't know, and they'll be like, you know what, I do this, that, and the third, and I'm like, oh, really? I'm into what you're talking about, and they'll be like, all right, come over here, and I'll introduce you, and I'll be like, all right, cool, and they'll just plug me in, and they become
Yeah.
great acquaintances or friends and whatnot, and it's a dope feeling knowing that people not at all people, but there's still genuine people out there that like legit just want to help a person out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For nothing or
Yeah.
just because they have the ability to.
I'll tell you that one of the most interesting moments that I've had in my life when I was because back in 2024, I was kind of living in between Illinois and Missouri.
Mm,
I was, kind of temporary living in Florence and Missouri. I think, matter of fact, most of 2024, I spent out in Chicago because I was down in California, Arizona, and but I was mostly kind of like in Missouri. While I was there, I got a chance to kind of reset. Like I didn't, I was considering like getting a funeral director license in Missouri. And I was folk kind of locking in on that, but then that kind of,
mm,
that didn't kind of go the way that I kind of wanted it to, which was okay. But I ended up like, making other connections. Like we went to like this one event that they had out there where they brought people from all different walks of life and backgrounds together to
yeah,
come together and discuss community and stuff. And so I got a chance to meet people and like connect with people. But I had a lot of fun doing it. Like I was just kind of there, just kind of rethinking and trying to, get some things off the ground. But like being there, it was really like refreshing because like I met so many people. And then I even went to this one random film screening. It was about this guy that was like dumpster diving, and it was like archaeology mixed with dumpster diving. And the guy made a documentary about it. I don't know who the filmmaker was, but I went to one of the movie theaters out there and just sat in the back and watched this documentary, and I just loved it and connected with a few other filmmakers out there. But I like, to me, that was like
yeah,
just the one time where like I was just kind of exploring. And I think that was like really like a really cool experience, because like I got a chance to, be away from Chicago a little bit and I'm not gonna lie, like I love my family, I love my friends, but like I wasn't really thinking about home like that. I was
yeah,
just kind of locked into just exploring things. And I think sometimes, kind of getting away is a good experience. Not look, home is always home, but the world is much bigger than where we're from. So I
that's
tell people that sometimes you gotta be willing to move around a little bit because I'm gonna be honest with you, like I've gotten because I'm in the process of God willing, also setting up shop in California as well. But
hey, Cali.
offers, I've gotten more offers from California than I have back here at home, to be honest with you. It's look, it's sometimes life just be like that. It's you
You
home will
gotta broaden
always be
you
home.
gotta broaden the horizons. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
gotta move around. You gotta see what's out there because like I know people that have never left New York City. You know what I mean? Never left the five boroughs ever. And they like and there's like so much outside of here and so much that they can learn and so many people they could connect with too. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
and I feel so crazy right now because I got an acquaintance I just met,
Yeah.
young lady from Chicago as well, and she just I think she just now graduated, and then she's in California right now doing her thing, and I'm like, wow, and that was like it's kind of inspiring to me because like I'm like, she just took the opportunity, like, look, I'm out. Then my friend Natara, She left and went to California couple of years ago. But like I said, me, I've been getting some things in place before I kind of make any move. One thing about me, I always
Yeah.
study and calculate things before I do it.
No, you have to be precise sometimes. You just
Yeah,
can't take it on the
and
whim.
so I'm just look. So like I said, I got my funeral arranger certificate already for California, but I'm working on becoming a fully licensed funeral director there as well. But I also got some other things I'm working on. So
You
when
cooking,
I
baby.
go there, God willing, I plan on hitting the ground running. So to me, it's not so much about film because you can be a filmmaker anywhere nowadays. You can, distribution is at our fingertips now. So you can be a filmmaker anywhere. So like that's not, don't get me wrong, Cali is a beautiful place and it is
Not,
one of the, bigger known places for cinema, but also I'd say New York and New Jersey as well, to be honest.
yeah.
Was big in cinema at one time. But so to me it's like, hey, California is great for all of those things, but I got another mission there as well. So I'm just getting ready to
Like,
just branch out, man.
like I said, bro, you cooking, you cooking. Yo, hot. I got a quick question for you, right? What's more stressful, directing a funeral or entering a match, a wrestling match?
Directing a funeral, probably. And the reason why I say that because in a wrestling match, you can look, you okay with taking bumps, but when you're directing a funeral, you never know what you're gonna be running into. And sometimes dealing with people can just be very difficult.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, you have to mentally be ready because I kid you not, I'll never forget this. When I was working at the funeral home one time, I'll never forget this. Um, I walk in the door, right? And one of my coworkers come running out the chapel like, hey, Wade, can you help me? Can you help? Can you just help? Can you help for the service? So I walk in the chapel and I walk up to the family and I ask the family, I say, would you like to, view one last time? And the lady said to me, if you touch that casket, you're gonna get beat up. I said, well, ma'am, look, I don't know. It's my job to ask you, do you want a final, would you like to view one last time? Because, some people say yes, some people say no, but you should always ask, you know. And we do ask in the beginning, but keep in mind, I wasn't there. My coworker just came running. Like, I literally just walked in the door
yeah.
and he and so I guess somebody that was working wasn't back yet or whatever. So he asked me, can I go in and help him? And I'm like, part of me kind of wanted to do the old Ric Flair and take my jacket off and say, let's do it.
It was
but,
about a woo.
but to be honest with you, like, look, it's a lot of them in there, right? So, because don't get me wrong, you're still human, right? Like I said,
Yeah.
I love people, but sometimes people catch you off guard, and like I was just like I was a little thrown off, like why was like but it happens,
But since you cook it, since right now you got your hand in multiple pots and you cooking right now, right? What are you chasing? Like legacy, art, impact, stability. Like what's the driving force behind? Besides you just connecting with people, because you have that energy and you have that gravitation where you know people are attracted to you, and I don't mean that in a funny way, and not like that, but
I got you.
you have that gravitation. So like, what with your hands in so many pots, like what are you personally chasing besides like connection with people?
Well, so for me, like I would just say, more so just living my life to the fullest. And to be honest with you, as a human being, we do have financial responsibilities as well, but that, to me, as far as like the entertainment stuff, let's be real. Everybody would love to, make a nice amount of money doing what they love, as long as it's
Yeah,
legit and and at least good. Long ain't no funny stuff going on,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But but it is our job to feed our families. So
That's
that's always a priority as well. But also, I just like enjoying every day and just doing what I enjoy, because everything that I'm doing, I was doing it before I even got paid. When I started working in the funeral business, I started out as a volunteer, you know. So I was doing these things even before I was getting paid. But again, being a grown man, we do have responsibilities.
That's a fact.
Um, male or female have responsibilities, but it's just so, if you're gonna get paid, why not, get paid doing something that you enjoy, you know. I think that that's always a blessing in a way, you know. Nothing comes without its challenges and things of that nature, but I think it's nice when you can make an earning doing something that you enjoy.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. And Wade, let the roomies know where they can find all your work at, where they can find you at.
Yeah, so you can find my work on Vimeo. It's Wade Filmmaker 777 on Vimeo. And then you can reach me on Instagram, Wade Jedi 99, always on the light side of the force. And you can
You
reach me
already
on
know, baby.
Facebook. Uh Wade Simmons on Facebook. So feel free to reach out. I pretty much chat with anybody. I feel free to reach out if you want to. And if you want to check me out, like no pressure. If you want to, that's cool. If not, it's
Now,
cool too. But you
I'm
know,
gonna put the pressure. Roomies, check them out. Stop playing and show them some love because he's a cool
I
dude.
appreciate it.
Nah, but before we wrap everything up, right? I always ask this to everybody. What's a message or a piece of advice that you will leave the roomies with before we go?
I always tell people keep God first and don't just say it, actually do it. But also, use your length of days wisely. I don't like to say time no more because a lot of people want to argue with you, say time is an illusion. Okay, even if it's an illusion, we still have a length of days that we're given, you know.
You
And
want to?
so I think that it's very important to use your length of days wisely because we don't know what the next day gonna bring. We don't know what the next year gonna bring. We don't even know what the next minute gonna bring. So I would just tell people that whatever you want to do, as long as it's good, love it, do it, and don't waste any moment because every moment is precious. And so love your family, love your friends, love your haters, love your enemies, love everybody because love is a powerful thing. So that's all I got.
I feel you. I feel you. Yo, roomies, you heard it here first. And remember, stop slacking. Go for it. If you feel it in your bones, do what you got to do. Don't waste any more days. And we're out of here. Peace.